إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد.
What's a common epidemic today in settings? Backbiting, gossip, or going on the net and typing away in the honor of those dead and alive. You see and hear of rogues who don't know if they'll wake up Muslim or otherwise, performing dissection and anatomy with their tongues on the honor of people whose destiny is now with Allah. There's people who are done deal. Allah's dealing with them. Allah is dealing with them. They are now with Allah. Allah's dealing with them. Then you got people who perform dissection on those whose souls are possibly inside green birds tending to the rivers of paradise and eating from the fruits of Jannah and returning to hang on the throne of Allah. All that while some rogue is sitting dissecting them with his tongue, does not know he himself whether he will wake up as a Muslim or a Munaafiq. If Allah prohibited backbiting amongst two people for moments, if two people for just a few moments backbite, it's considered a major sin. That's backbiting and that's a major sin. If it's only for moments and just amongst two people, it's a major sin when it's among two. In the reality, if you think about it, when two people talk about someone, each party departs and possibly forgets that which they said and go about their way. That's major sin in backbiting, even if they forgot about it on the spot. And that's among the major sins. Now imagine a sin like that when it's among a group. How big of a sin it is when it's in a group. Now take it further. Imagine the sin when it's put on a social media for the world to see, not for this time period, but for generations to come and possibly until the judgment day. Wallahi, one who truly believes in the akhirah and the punishment of the grave and lets that register in his mind, he would never go to that extreme. One will lie in his grave with torment, seizing him from every angle for hundreds of years, possibly thousands of years, until the trumpet is blown in for words he posted on the net. He thought they were nothing, but to Allah they were very severe. I say, amongst the most dangerous sins after shirk are the sins that pertain to the rights of others. Be careful in your time. That's why we're mentioning this, because this is stuff that happens during your time. We deal with the Ghafurun Rahim. When you read about the mercy of Allah and the Shafa'ah, you get ecstatic in hope. There is a type of sin that is a double-edged sword. And that's the sins that transgress upon others, like killing, like backbiting, like taking the properties of others, like slander of others. You can raise your hands in 2 seconds and ask Allah for forgiveness. You're dealing with a Ghafur Rahim. But there's another right, double-edged sword. There's another right pertaining to the human who's going to come and request it from you when you stand before Allah. When people pass over the sirat, obstacle after obstacle, terror after terror. Allah called it زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم. The wait for the judgment day is terror. The questioning before Allah is terror. The mizan is terror. Getting the books, walking on the sirat. Now, finally, you made it through all that and you're on the sirat, you're crossing a sirat, and there are people who are making it to the front yard of Jannah. In Sahih Bukhari, إذا خلص المؤمنون من النار حبسوا بقنطرة بين الجنة والنار. فيتقاضون مظالم كانت بينهم في الدنيا حتى إذا نقوا وهذبوا أذن الله لهم حتى إذا نقوا وهذبوا أذن لهم بدخول الجنة. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu in hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari said, when the believers cross over hellfire, over the Sirat, they're stopped at a bridge called Al-Qantara, an arch bridge called Al-Qantara, before they get into paradise. What's that bridge for? They will be given retribution for injustices between them until they're fully purified. Then after they're purified from rights amongst each other, then they'll be told, you can enter Jannah. Qantara may be the edge, the last portion of a sirat, but I believe from what I read, I believe it's actually another bridge, a second smaller bridge after a sirat, that's like a detour for believers of this ummah who have rights amongst each other before they get to step on the front yard of Jannah. Whoever contemplates and fully realizes the akhirah, and sit, when you think about it, as it's happening before you, that what I just told you, sit and imagine it before you. You could never commit a sin like this. Can you imagine the excitement? You pass all through all those phases, one after the other. You just finished passing the claws that take you, kalalib, that take you and pull you from the sirat onto Jahannam. You just passed that phase. Just as you're about to put your foot in the front yard of Jannah, one group goes forward to the front yard of Jannah joys, and another group goes to Al-Qantara to settle the disputes they had between Muslims and get purified before they're allowed to enter the front yard of Jannah. Is anyone worth stopping you for a millisecond from putting your feet on the front yards of Jannah? Imagine with me. Ask you by Allah to imagine with me that you're on the Qantara. Jannah is an eyesight away. You can see Jannah from the Qantara. You get in sins of someone you despise so much that you spoke about him and slandered him. Can you feel the agony you're going to be going through? Because still at this point, after this point, Allah's going to remove all heart feelings. But at this point, you're going to feel the pain of it. Can you feel the agony of being imprisoned on the Qantara, watching your level in Jannah from Firdaus drop down and down and down and down, at an eyesight away from you? Can you imagine the agony of seeing people in the front yard of Jannah? Some people possibly crowded about Ibrahim alayhi salam. Some people going to Nuh alayhi salam to meet with him. Some people going with Aisha to meet the wife of the Prophet sallallahu. Some going to meet Khalid ibn al-Walid and Abu Ubaidah, smiling and joyous. They made it to the front yard of heaven, and you're there on the Qantara getting your ranks stripped down, one after the other, for something you said about a believer, or something that you took away from the rights of a believer. The one you despise so much, is he worth the most valuable asset that you have? Your ranks in Jannah? If indeed you want to backbite, then slander your mom and your dad, or your sheikh, or someone you really love. Because if you get stopped on the Qantara, it'll be your mom and your dad getting their ranks higher while yours gets lower. Why did the Prophet ﷺ call someone who transgresses on another's rights bankrupt? Ask people who know finance. If someone has no wealth, zero, do you call him bankrupt? No, you don't call him bankrupt. Someone you refer to as bankrupt is not someone who never had nothing. It's someone who has a lot and then lost it. Those who slander, backbite, transgress on the honor and the rights of others, they have deeds, lots of deeds. In one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, like Jibal Tuhama, huge mountains of deeds. But they become bankrupt, they lose it all. They hit someone, he takes some ajr. They slander, that person gets some ajr. You really get amazed at how loose some tongues are and how released some jaws are when it comes to the honor of their brothers. Because they don't really comprehend this. The akhirah in them is not really deep in their hearts.